Welcome to my Bolton Carabao Cup review and West Ham preview, maybe a few other little bits and pieces mixed in. Was I a little bit concerned when Villa went behind after about 25 minutes? Let's put it this way, I did not open Twitter. And I wonder how many Aston Villa fans had a celebratory pint at the legendary Phoenix nightclub afterwards. Maybe slipped next door to catch that master illusionist and mind reader Clinton Baptiste. I'm getting a word, nonce. And I'm sure that Brian Potter, the cheap bastard, would have never served Basil Hayden's there because this is a fine Kentucky bourbon, smoky and sweet and the perfect nectar to celebrate Bolton 1, Aston Villa 4. These are the gifts that best describe how I felt on Tuesday. I mean, first, it was this, and that was after about 25 minutes and close to halftime. And then afterwards, it was kind of a little bit more like this, especially after Luca Dean made it 3-1. Now, since we last spoke, there was an update on the Ismaila Sarr situation, and if it's true that SG had a word with the player and was somehow put off or wanted to back out of the deal over terms or something, then that probably reflects more negatively on the player than it does on the club, even though there's this massive negativity vortex swirling around Aston Villa right now. Because don't you find it a little bit weird that this player is so highly touted and has been linked with so many exits from Watford, and yet he's still there right now? I've said it a million times on this show. We need winners and warriors, not warm bodies. And whoever Aston Villa brings in during the course of this window or ones to come, that player has to be better than what we currently have. Well, there they are, the 5,000 hardy souls who made the trek to the University of Bolton Stadium to support Aston Villa in round 2 of the Carabao Cup as we present the Holy Trinity Show and the 3 key issues or moments that define Bolton Wanderers 1, Aston Villa 4, starting with the key statistics from the match. And it was a little bit dodgy, a little bit dicey through 45 minutes. The stat I wanted to focus on was duels won because it felt like Aston Villa was second best to everything in that first half. But in the end, the stats did favor the away side. 16 attempts, 11 on target, 4 big chances created. I thought it was more than that. And 59% duels won in the end, even after a bit of a dodgy first 45 minutes. Let's have a look at Little Phil's stats because he had a rough old first half. Only 69% accurate passes over the course of that game. That's not good for a player in his position. 2 chances created. Accurate long balls, 1 of 3, which isn't really the best. He had 3 shot attempts. 2 were on target. 1 went into the wall from the free kick. And then he had 6 of 10 ground duels won, and his successful dribbles were 1 of 3. It felt to me like he was just trying to do too much on his own first 45 minutes. That first half felt an awful lot like a Crystal Palace hangover, and Steven Gerrard said live on Sky afterwards, we were just simply too eager and urgent to try to make things happen and get forward. And in the end, they got dragged into a back and forth game, which they didn't want to have. And one of the worst culprits was Phil Coutinho. Well, I showed you his stats. He tried that diagonal floated ball an awful lot. And those balls allowed the defenders to shift over because they're in the air so long. Keep it on the ground. Low touches. Keep moving. But to suggest that Aston Villa were absolutely crap and terrible, to me, was a little bit disrespectful to Bolton Wanderers because those boys put a shift in. I mean, they grafted. They were putting on a show for their home crowd, and I think they were deserved in the lead. And, maybe it could have been worse. But isn't it funny how things go? Maybe Aston Villa needed to go behind. They needed to understand they were in a game and snap to attention because the implications of losing that game, that would have been dire. The second half, totally different story. And when a manager or a coach says, let's get back to basics, the way I interpret that is take fewer touches and support the football. Keep the ball moving. Reduce your touches. Play quicker. And that's exactly what happened. And when you think about the Crystal Palace game and that first goal, those principles were perfectly on display. Mings fizzes the ball in. Bailey, who's supporting Watkins or vice versa, One little glance touch, and Watkins doesn't need hardly a touch to slot it home. Conversely, just prior to the Zaha 1-1 goal, Emi Buendia tries to take 3, 4, 5 touches, drive it into the penalty area where he doesn't have any support, and lo and behold, they lose it, and the transition occurs at a time when Villa just needed to calm the game down. Big issue or moment number 3, strong selection. I got 4 mistakes in my projected lineup, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I was happy it was a strong lineup, and I speculated on Twitter this was all about redemption from the weekend, but also trying to build some continuity and chemistry and form in the early season. And lo and behold, Steven Gerrard said exactly that afterwards, and also said, I owed it to the 5,000 traveling supporters to put out a strong lineup. Good PR, Stevie G. And the schedule was in their favor to do that, but I do wonder, had they won at Crystal Palace, would it have been a more rotated side? Now, some will complain, maybe rightly, that by not playing the young players, Big Tim and Cam Archer, or any of the squad players, and not giving them meaningful minutes, will that come back to haunt in the event of an injury or a suspension because they won't have meaningful game time? I'm a little bit torn on Cam Archer because he has an urgency and a directness and an energy to him very similar to Emi Buendia that just pops off the screen for me. And he's completely different than what we have currently. But at the same time, if he's not playing, he's not growing. And so I feel like there is another loan stint imminent here. Big issue or moment number 2, some favourable fortune. Now, I'm not for a minute suggesting that Douglas Luiz's Olympico was a fluke because he did it at Walsall in preseason and he did it the day before in training. I'm just saying, if you went to your local bookie and you said, what's the odds on an Olympico being scored in this game? They would have been very high. If you had put a punt on it, you probably would have paid your entire gas bill for the winter. That's how rare they are. So Dougie lines it up. His teammates all know it's coming. Great distractions in the 6-yard box for poor goalkeeper Joel Dixon. And, I mean, what a goal. I mean, what a moment. It certainly was in the game. I couldn't help but think maybe in the season. But he almost did it again 10 minutes later. Now, there was another stroke of good fortune on the eventual game winner because Villa calmed things down, took control of the game, reduced their touches, and then little Phil does what he best. He saw the pass and played in Danny Ings, who was taken down by the goalkeeper, but had VAR been at that ground, that would have been called offside. Now, I thought the officiating in this game was rather atrocious. In fact, preceding the 1-0 Bolton goal, I thought there was a foul for sure. And later in the second half, Ollie Watkins was called offside, even though both of his feet were on his own side of midfield when the ball was played. But Danny Ings took the penalty, buried it, and you could see the whole tone of the game change. And listen, I'm not complaining about decisions that go in our favor because I've been an Aston Villa fan for 43 years. Believe me, I've experienced enough non-calls that I won't feel guilty about the ones that do go our way. And the number 1 big issue that defined Bolton 1, Villa 4, quality is always more important than quantity. I said earlier that Bolton deserved some merit for the state of that game, especially in the first half, as much as Villa wasn't quite at it in those first 45 minutes. But as the game went on, you could see the shift in fitness, in quality, in poise, and confidence. And Aston Villa put it away. And let's be honest, a Premier League goalkeeper does not allow an Olympico that way, nor do they give away a penalty the way that penalty came about, and also wouldn't probably give Luca Dean a wide open near post to just slot into. So Villa's quality did shine as the game wore on. And when you think about it, Jacob Ramsey should have done a lot better with the chance set up by Leon Bailey. And then John McGinn goes for power rather than just placing it near the end. So really, it could have been 5 or 6 for Aston Villa, but I'm happy because that had to build some confidence to finish the game the way they did. Speaking of quality, I thought Leon Bailey put in another eye-popping type performance for Aston Villa, and I simply cannot see how he doesn't start on Sunday, especially because he'll be up against his Jamaican countryman in Mikel Antonio. I'm not going to lie. When Leon Bailey took this ball, went on a run, and then almost pulled the Bertrand Traore freezing Sam Johnson at the Hawthorns a couple of years ago, I almost tinkled in my pants a little bit, because this was the same move that he pulled off at Crystal Palace, only that one went bar and out, and this one went straight in. And I just can't help but feel that a happy Leon Bailey and a fit Leon Bailey is like having a brand new signing. And imagine when he gets more continuity and more familiarity with his teammates. I could easily, and I think conservatively, see him scoring 7 to 8 goals this year. And so into the third round of the Carabao Cup draw Villa go, and just like death and taxes, why, who do they draw but a Premier League opponent away from home? Last year it was Chelsea, where they lost on penalties after a valiant effort. This year it's Manchester United at Old Trafford, where they were done in by a terrible VAR decision, diabolical frankly, in the third round of the FA Cup. And as irritating as it is to see the same draws over and over again and never seemingly have a game at home at Villa Park, the train wreck that is Manchester United right now might actually turn out to be favourable, more so than maybe an informed championship side. We shall see, because Villa's going to have to play a strong lineup when that game comes around. And what's really crazy is that game comes around just 3 days after the two teams meet at Villa Park in the league. And you do wonder how that's going to go and where those teams are going to be at when that game comes around, and how much meaning will be on that competition, and whether the acrimony perhaps goes from one game and transitions straight over to the other. On to a very, very big early season game at Villa Park on Sunday. The Hammers come in winless and goalless, but have dominated Aston Villa in this fixture, at least the last 2 years, and I don't think it's going to be a 4-1 result for the visitors this time around. And especially when you consider the travel situation. Hammers playing in the Europa Conference League in Denmark on Thursday, so Friday is their rehab, train Saturday, game on Sunday, whereas Villa had their rehab Wednesday, train Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Still, not going to be an easy contest. I know everybody in Aston Villa land has already said it. Well, they haven't won a game and haven't scored a goal. 3-1 win incoming Sunday. It remains to be seen whether David Moyes gets some of his key injured players back in time for Sunday, and whether or not maybe they do more business, probably not in time for Sunday. They've certainly been linked to a lot of players, and they have inked quite a few as well during this transfer window, but I was very surprised by their performance at home to Brighton and Hove Albion last Sunday. Brighton's moved on some pretty key players. Kukurea, Basuma, Mopai's not involved anymore. And yet they were so comfortable at the London Stadium. And it's like West Ham has lost some of that pop that they used to have, and intensity and energy. I wonder if they're rebuilding right now all of a sudden, because when you think back to last year, after they beat Villa at home 2-1, the only teams they managed to beat in the stretch run were Everton and Norwich. Mikel Antonio went on the Footballers Football podcast and said, I'm going to score this weekend and West Ham's going to win and we're going to get back on track. And I kind of think that Leon Bailey may actually be, of the two, the one who's more likely to score. But the one thing Aston Villa simply cannot do is allow a goal 7 minutes in, like last year when Declan Rice was allowed to tee one up from 25 yards. And Villa also has to somehow figure out a way to get a hold of that midfield. And also, be wary of that ball from Saeed Benrahma that's done them in 2 years in a row at London Stadium in 2-1 losses. The one that he plays from the left wing straight into the penalty area. He's done that a couple times. Here's how I'd line up on Sunday. Now, this is just me, but I'd go toe-to-toe 4-2-3-1 with West Ham, putting Callum Chambers in the back, even though he wasn't the best on the 1-0 goal by Bolton, but he is a much better distributor of the ball. And I would put John McGinn here. This is a good place for him because he can contribute to the attack. He can also help in midfield and help Luca Dean on that side of the park. And Buendia just has more bite in midfield, along with the two holders, Kamara and Douglas Luiz, who I think earned a start based on his performance at Bolton. And you could see here, too, how if you had to, you could turn this into a 4-4-2 if the game called for it. But, of course, this is not going to happen. I don't know about you, but this feels like a really big early season home statement-like game, not just for Aston Villa, but also for John McGinn. I mean, he's the club captain. Maybe it was a bit of a risk giving him the armband. The backup on-field captain is down for months with an injury in Diego Carlos. If John McGinn doesn't back up a couple of poor performances with a really good one, heading into games midweek at Arsenal and then home to Manchester City in a week, I don't even want to think about it. In the meantime, let's just stay positive, maybe stay off Twitter, and as always, up the mighty Villa. Which of the other Premier League clubs' crest do you like the best, and none of the above?